afternoon. Welcome. The Saratoga Springs Public Library proudly presents Lise Fuller talking about Adirondack herbs and planting a medicinal garden. This is her book. We have it in the library. You're welcome to check it out, as well as many of our other books. I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away, Lise.
Thanks. First of all, I'd like to thank the library, Saratoga Library, for hosting this and hosting it at a good time, which is in April, which is when you're going to start your gardens. I hope everybody gets everything from this. I have a big medicinal herbal garden up at SUNY Adirondack, and that's on Bay Road in Glens Falls. And I welcome anybody who get in touch with me, and I'll be more than happy to do a tour. We're up there. I'm up there every week during the spring and summer and fall. So I'm going to start my slideshow. Oh, I also have, if you can see right now, I have the AdirondackHerbals.net, which is my website. I have a Facebook site, whereas I take pictures of tons of plants during the season, and there's a lot of plants. If you like looking at plants, you'll like that Facebook site. And then I didn't realize that a long time ago I got a YouTube channel for somebody who was demonstrating a broad fork. So he is thrilled to be on YouTube, and I think that was about 5 years ago. But anyway, I'm going to put some more stuff on it because I'm getting more and more used to this new world of Zoom. So I'm just going to start. So let me see. Okay. So basically, this is what I do. And I also am an artist, and I illustrated this, but I think that basically, I don't know that I have a pointer here. No, probably not. Is that actually looking like a pointer, or is that just me?
Yes, your cursor is looking like a pointer.
Oh, good. Oh, that's great. I really like that. So basically, this is harvesting lemongrass. As simple as growing it. As the plant is in its prime, you cut off the top third, and then you dry it. And so there's many methods of drying. Here's a basket. I use a paper bag. I use my car. Lots of lemongrass is actually very easy to dry. And then I actually, put it in a jar, store it, dehydrate it, store it, make a cup of tea. And also, you can't see right here, but you can also use it as a cold beverage. And here's my little cabinet that I store things in. And basically 6 weeks later, I start all over again. And that's what I do with everything, lots of plants. So this is probably the most, people probably ask me the more questions about what do I plant, when do I plant. So I'm going to try to get through this. So I'm going to talk about garden needs, where you can put your garden, plants, where they like to be put, also maintaining it, and what to plant. That's my biggest thing. Like, people want to do an herbal garden, but they don't really know exactly what they want to plant. And so you need to have a plan and write it down and figure it out. And the best thing is having friends who do this, and connect with other people, because there is just a wonderful group of I call them plant people, that love doing this. And the cool thing about a garden, herbal garden, is that it's small. It's not like growing vegetables. You basically grow one plant for each need that you have, and you harvest it, and you preserve your harvest. And then at the very end, I'm going to do about wildcrafting. So here we go. So one of the biggest problems people don't realize is that you really do need sun for a garden, and people don't really know how much sun they have. This is my garden up at, actually, this is the first year up at SUNY Adirondack, and you can see it's in a big field. So we do have sun, but if you look at there, actually, I'm losing a lot of my sun for half this garden because I have a huge maple tree that's kind of overtaking it. But what I suggest to people is put a stick in the ground where you're thinking of putting a garden, and then take a picture of it during the day, and you'll see how much sun you have, because plants need sun, and not all of them need full day sun, but you want to be successful. So sun is a really important part. And actually, let me show you my yard. This is placement of plants. Also, and placement of plants, you need to know where you need to know where to put plants and every plant can be happy or sad. A lot of times the only thing you need to do with a plant, if you've planted in a place, you can just move it, and it will be it might thrive or might not. I hang out with garden people, and they don't get too excited when things perish. They just plant more. And so it's kind of, don't beat yourself up about, that's probably what the most that I hear is, oh, I can't plant, I can't do it. Basically, you just have to try. So, whoops, I'm going to go back into, I'm just going to go back. Okay. I'm just going back to see. Okay. So big thing besides the sun, we live in a zones. The United States is divided up into zones, and you kind of know what your zone is. Now I'm in Warren County. Saratoga County actually is warmer, and I'm not really sure how far you extend, but the further you extend down south, the warmer it gets. So, it is I'm much colder. I have to say though that it's getting warmer, and people do plant when they shouldn't plant a plant that's a little bit too, it's a little bit too cold. What kills our plants here is that we have cold winters, and they go down below zero, quite 10 below, 20 below. So that's how you lose plants. So just, you have to keep in mind, and all of this stuff is in catalog. So, but it's a pretty important bit of information. So another thing is what kind of soil you have. Like I'm up here in the sand pits, and I'm not really sure about Saratoga County. I have in my yard, there's sand. You do tend to know what's in your yard. Now, unbelievable to me is that when I got this garden up at SUNY, it was clay, and I never worked in clay. And I was like really nervous about working with this clay. It actually looked like I could make pots with the stuff. And, but I've learned that clay is an amazing type of soil. You can augment it, but clay holds moisture, and it contains a ton of nutrients, which is the opposite of what I have in my yard, which is sand. And you can put down so much topsoil, you can put down so much compost, and it just seems to just drift apart, and it's hard. It doesn't hold nutrients or water. So I have a lot of respect for clay. But the best stuff is a combination of loam. And so you'll have pockets of that. So it's kind of neat to know. Some of the Cornell Cooperative Extension goes by county, and we have one in Warren County, and you're in Saratoga County. And if you get on their website, there's an amazing amount of information that they have. That's their job. And so they do a lot of just amazing amount of things, but they also they'll test your soil for you. And I know that here in our at our farmers market, they always have a table, and I'm not so sure about Saratoga. And then of course there's Washington County too, because we're kind of in the middle of all these three counties. So do take advantage of these websites, because they're amazing. Warren County actually has a plant sale, which is in May, I think. You'll get online and look at it. But one of the things that Warren County does is it sells elder trees or elder bushes. And I know they look like little sticks, but they sure are. They're fine. And it's something you might want to look into if you're interested in growing elder, which is an amazing medicinal plant. One of the photo I have here, which is sweet fern, which is a very common plant that grows everywhere around me in the woods here. And that indicates that not only grows in sandy soil. So that's one of the ways of finding out what kind of soil you have. Let me go further.
Lise, yeah. We had a question in the Q&A about, does the information on your presentation apply to people who have potted plants as well? Because some people don't have space for gardens.
Yes, absolutely. I have this thing for container gardening. Absolutely. That's a great way of yeah. So basically container gardening is easier because you can control your soil. So let me go into here. The other thing that's really interesting about a medicinal garden an herbal medicinal garden is that most of the plants are perennials. They continue to bloom every year. So my garden up at SUNY has like I'd say 3/4 of the garden is, maybe even more than that, is the plants that just keep on coming up. I don't do anything to them. I have a couple of biannuals, and then I have one area where we plant our annuals every year. So that would be like Tulsi, basil. And also the biggest question I have as an herbalist, because so many people go down south, is rosemary. It is not a perennial around here. It is an annual. It dies unless you can bring it into your house. And sometimes I'm good and sometimes I'm bad. It's like one of my favorite plants. So yes, rosemary is not an annual. Okay, so here's placement of gardens. So people forget that they have a front yard and that it can be completely used. And also it's probably has the most sun. So I actually have planted, I plant all around my house. So this is my front yard here. And I have mostly medicinal herbs in here, but I also have flowers and everything else. But but people forget about their front yard usage. It's getting better. It's getting better. People are planting in their front yards now, and it's a joy to see. My neighbors I kind of started something, and now all my neighbors have their flower gardens in their front yard, which is cool because it's so pleasant. But so I have now on my side yard, I have Solomon seal, and there's black cohosh, which tends to do better in the shade. And that, although I have one in my front yard, which is kind of in the shade, but it grows, but it does very well. So you will see when we look at the garden catalogs just how much sun, how much sun a plant needs. Let me see, go to here. One of the easier ways to do, and I see this all over the place, and plus in the garden catalogs, they have these wonderful things that you can just put up, but these are raised beds. I also have raised beds in my front yard. And sometimes just all you need is one small raised bed, and you can grow so many of the plants that you like. It's amazing. So I started these a couple of years ago, and all it is pine boards with hinges. And I have, we dug out the soil and then we added compost, and that's all we did. And the plants flourish. This is also my front yard. So you don't have to get fancy. You really don't. So actually you can see how well it did. So this is like, that's a lemongrass plant. It really likes my front yard. I'm actually digging up some of the echinacea that I had growing all over, because I'm actually bringing this over to the garden that I started up at the college. So let me see. So you can have a lot of plants in here. Right now this is calendula. I have thyme. There's poke. I can't remember. There's bean. This is a bean. This is string beans. And then this was a long time ago. I don't do this anymore. I would plant tomatoes in my front yard with a front border. But if you looked at my yard now, you'd be amazed at how I don't have anything like that, because maintenance is an issue. And but here's a great way of planting. These are container gardens. I totally recommend, if you can't do anything else, the good thing about containers, especially like, for instance, I plant all my basils in containers, even though I have room and everywhere. You have such a, they grow better in containers. You can control it. You control the water. And these are, this is stevia. This is a rosemary. These are lemon verbena. This is sweet Annie and passion flower. I grew passion flower. Beautiful, beautiful plants. So these are all medicinal plants, and they do really well in a container. And I'm going to show you. Here is a great example. She's got a raised bed. She's got containers, and those are really big containers. And then she had a retaining wall in her property, and she ended up using this whole area for plants. And one of the things that she was new. She came from, it's a friend of mine. she came from down like below Albany. No, I think it was like way below Albany. So she was used to a totally different zone. And there was a real learning experience for her for what you plant, where you can plant it. And also she actually had soil, and now she's living near a lake, and it's all sand. So she's put in all kinds of soil. But you've got 3 different options. You have a lot of options because the thing about herbs is they take up so little space. It's not vegetables. So you have an enormous amount of options. And I really believe in containers. Here is a garden up in Vermont. This is a garden in Vermont, and you can't see it, but there is, this is my sister's garden, and she didn't believe she could grow anything until we got these fences, this fence. And this is you can't really see it too well, but there's a flexible deer fence that we've surrounded this whole garden with. And we actually had a hard time finding it in Vermont, which I was surprised. But you can find that at Tractor Supply and all the garden and you just put them up with poles, and they're flexible and you can take them down. But they make a huge difference, because there's nothing more frustrating than growing plants. I know, because I grow all kinds of places. It is having your plants eaten. And so there's such a thing as called have a heart traps. So don't get frustrated. I get this question all the time. Like you can trap the animals. But the best thing is fencing. So she's got 2 kinds of fencing here, a small one, and then around this whole thing is those flexible deer fencing. And they used to be really flimsy, but they're making really good ones now. And I think there's a company, I think it's Garden Supply up in Vermont. And I noticed my latest catalog is that they have all kinds of fencing options now. So you can spend a lot of money, but believe me, it's worth preserving your garden. Okay, so here is another option for gardening, and this is in this is up in Glens Falls, and I had this was a community garden, and what we did was we grew. So I think this was 10 by 3 feet, and we grew a ton of plants. And you can see my little what do you call it? My plan. But I was amazed. I was teaching a class, and we did, actually they're the ones that figured out where to put everything, and they kind of gridded it out, and they got a plan. And it was amazing how well this garden did. And it's it's good to do something like this in a community garden, because there's so much teaching opportunity on this. Actually, the plants did so well that they kind of dwarfed at each other, but it was a really good opportunity to do a community garden. And I know that there's community gardens everywhere, and it's something to look into. You don't have to have a garden in your house. In your yard. This is the start of the medicinal garden. So I'm going to talk a little bit about like what I did here, because it's easier. Now I had land. So because I teach a lot about plants, I made this garden. Usually you put like a 3-foot, the rows are 3 feet with a 2-foot paths, because I teach, and I needed people to stay out of the garden and to stay on the paths. And still, that's kind of tricky sometimes. And so I had so this is the beginning of it. And I want you to just look at this little stick here, which is an elder. Oh no, it's right here. A little stick. That's an elder bush. And I want to show you when you don't plan things. Oh, okay. I'll just show you later. This is, preparing a new bed. Okay. So that's what, Callie's going to give you some information about her books, but the way people do prepare new beds now is they do like a no-till garden. And so you don't rototill, you just kind of lay this is what we did in half of our garden. We laid down the cardboard, and then you put the soil on top of it. The cardboard disintegrates, and then you plant. Now this is done in advance of the year. So there's something to be, so I highly recommend looking at the new there's new books that talk about no-till gardening and not having to use a rototiller. But if you have to use a rototiller, that's fine. If you're breaking it up or you do this double dig, there is a ton of information on how to prepare a new bed. But if you look over here, this is a broad fork. This is a broad fork, and you can buy these. And these are utterly amazing. I think we did this whole garden in like 15 minutes. We did like a big plot in 15 minutes. And so if you get on my YouTube channel using a broad fork, there is a demo of somebody doing it. And I was pretty amazed because this is solid, like this is solid soil. This is clay soil. And it was amazing how fast we broke that up. So there's so much information about how to do this, and there's so many books out there that there's no reason not to. Your best bet is people who do it. Okay, so we're talking about that little elder bush. So I planted this elder bush in my garden, and I brought it from my house, and it was sandy soil over there, and it never did very well. And I honestly didn't believe that this thing was going to ever grow. So I stuck it right in the middle of my garden, my big garden. And because really that is sometimes a plant, most of the times a plant is just unhappy where it is, and you just need to plant it somewhere else. So right now I have a huge bush tree in the middle of my garden, which I would never have planned if I had known how happy they were going to be, and also about the power of clay soil and how it retains water, which elder bushes really need, and nutrients. So this is a very happy plant. Unfortunately, it's in the middle of my garden. So when you do, this is the garden now. This is the 3rd year. And although you can't see the big bush, it's there. I mean, it probably the 3rd year. Now it's huge. I'm in 5 years, so I have a very big bush. But one of the things that you need to do, and what I recommend, no matter how small the garden is get it some graph paper and put down what you want to plant and kind of sketch it out, how big that plant is going to be, how tall that plant is going to be, because you want to know where that sun is coming, because you don't want the tall plants to dwarf, to just take all the sun. Our sun in this area, the sun goes, where's my little thingy here? It goes this way. So, you have to be really, you have to be very aware of where your sun is going to fall. So, because you will dwarf some of the, some of the big plants really spread out. Actually, everything is spread out in this garden. This garden did phenomenal. I couldn't believe how happy these plants were up there. So it's worth getting a little piece of paper and making a plan first. And, I can't even recommend that highly enough. Just make a plan. So again, there's my tree, and there's now it's right in the middle of the garden. So here we go. Okay. So one of the things, because I get asked about this all the time, is what do I plant? And the herbs that you plant should be the herbs that you're going to use. And you don't have to plant a lot. And I always suggest starting with just a few herbs. Now, what I've done up at the garden up here is I have a demo garden, and it is 12 by 4 feet. No, I think it's 3 feet. That it's not 4 feet is too big to jump across. It's more like 12 by 3. 3 feet is good. And this is what we have up there. This is what we planted last year. You can see my little my plant. Also, if you get on my website, I have a blog, What Shall I Plant? And I have it in detail about what I planted and what we did. So I think that's probably helpful. Those are the plants that I plant. Those are very basic plants that grow very well in the Northeast. And that's important. You got to know what grows around here. And also what you use, stay small and just do it, And the other thing that people really get hung up on is maintenance of the garden. And you have to just turn that around and think that instead of maintenance, because there's no such thing as no maintenance, instead of that, you have to think of there's such a joy here to grow plants, especially medicinal plants. And you have to think of more like you're working with nature, and it just changes everything. And when people start doing this, I suggest staying really small. Like this is my first, whoops. This is my raised bed, the first year of my raised bed. And of course, here's the thing about having a very, very happy plant. That's lemongrass. And it's very, very happy. And this is lavender. This is calendula. Not sure what that is. I also know I have lemon balm in here, and I'll have sweet. I have wood betony, and I know I have a thyme. So that's the kind of thing. If anything, just grow culinary herbs and dry them and use them. That's the best. Most of the culinary herbs are medicinal herbs anyway. So also one of the things that I find up at the garden too is that I have volunteers, and if anybody wants to volunteer, get in touch with me. But it's a great way of, learning about how the plants, grow and when to harvest them. So there's just a whole lot of learning, but just in the beginning, stay small. And if containers are all you can do, it's amazing what you can grow with them. Okay. So here is a list, and I have culinary herbs. And culinary herbs, I have to say, I would grow all culinary herbs and I would use them. If you do, and nothing else, just grow culinary herbs, because fresh culinary herbs are so great. And if you have a garden, you can just stick those in your vegetable garden and grow up in, all over the place, because fresh culinary herbs like fresh basil, rosemary, just learning how to dill. I use dillweed all the time. Fennel. Well, fennel, you can grow fennel bulbs up here, which they never go to seed because we're a little bit too cold, but peppermints, garlic, spearmint, all that stuff. Now, if you want to go into the way we look at herbs as herbalists, is we look at them as body systems, like this herb is good for digestion. So I'll tell you, there's nothing more wonderful than fresh chamomile and fresh peppermint. Everybody's afraid to grow peppermint because they think it's going to spread, and it does spread. But fresh peppermint, is wonderful. Spearmint is a powerful plant. These are powerful plants. They do great. Like down into the nervous system herbs, chamomile, lemon balm. That is such an easy plant to grow. And I recommend using lemon balm like just out of the garden. Don't even dry it. Just use it. I use a lot of these. I just use a lot of plants right out of the garden, and I just pour hot water, boiling water out of them, and let them sit. And they make wonderful tea. You don't even have to dry them. Lemon balm is one of my favorite. And then there's just a whole lot of other plants. Catnip's up right now. That's the herb for children. So when they get sick, that children do really well with this herb. So do adults usually, but children, this is the herb for children. Respiratory herbs. These are all herbs that grow really well in my garden. You can go up there and see immunity herbs, garlic, elder, boneset, yarrow, skin herbs, calendula flowers, roses, lavender, wonderful lavender, comfrey. And so these are just a list of plants that you can grow. Now, because of the Lyme situation, I grow a whole bunch of bug repellent herbs, and I make oil out of these herbs. So I have, and I also on my website is, I think I have it in there at the very end. There is a blog on how to make herbal oil and what you use, and there's a couple of tricks in there, and it's totally worth making an herbal oil and using it. I will discuss Lyme situation. Okay, one of the best ways of learning about plants is getting herbal catalogs. This is strictly medicinal seeds. It used to be Horizon Herbs. It comes out of Oregon. His catalogs are the best. I mean, he grows everything. And he knows exactly what to do. Now, one of the things that you need to do is you need to understand your Latin name. Everybody knows what an echinacea is, but here, I'm like, if you go to the big box stores, you'll get yellow echinacea. I don't know. It's amazing. They took echinacea and they cultivated it and they made it into all different types of, pretty flowers. But the species that grows around here is Echinacea purpurea. That's the one that does well. There's a whole bunch of them you can see in this catalog, but this is in the United States. So this is a prairie plant. So there's Augustifolia, but the one that does really well around here is the purpurea, and you see it everywhere. So if you're going to grow Echinacea and you're going to make preparations out of it, get the right plant. So, and it would be the Echinacea purpurea. So, and you can see there's just an amazing amount of information. You should go get this catalog. It's invaluable. They have 3 catalogs that are really good. Johnny's Selected Seeds is great for figuring out how big a plant's going to be, how long it takes to germinate, how long, when do you sow it? You can sow lemon balm in the spring and in the fall. You can transplant it. It needs sun. It gets big. It gets 18 to 26 inches. This is 12 inches. So it's like a 12-inch round. So that's good. You really need that kind of information. And then zones 4 to 8 does really well here. Just does fine. It flourishes here. It's a great plant. One of my favorite plants. Here's lemongrass. Now they say that you can germinate it. I have found that you have to buy it, and you really have to transplant it. And and you can see it's a zone 9 to 11. So it does really well. So it's an annual here. And it does really well here, but you do that's why you harvest it and you can use it. And then the other one, so there's all this information, and so it's worth getting all of these catalogs. And this comes out of Canada, Richter's, and they are absolutely amazing catalog. And so you can see I just love looking at this catalog. It's got herbal plants from all over the world, and they're fascinating to read about them, and they'll have like information about it. So this is like one of my favorite reads for the spring. All the time. And you can see that they have a code, which is germination, spring, fall, anytime, ease of germination, easy, moderate, difficult, which is good to know, because maybe sometimes you should just buy the plant instead. Sometimes, with them, I think, well, I don't know, you have to buy. Okay. So you can buy a plant. So passion flower doesn't do that well around here. It does better from the South. It's Passiflora incarnata, and it does better down south. It's not really, doesn't do really well up here. I've tried to grow it many, many times, and it just never flowers, but in a pot it does, because you can control it. So look at this. So they have duration uses: culinary, medicinal, beverage, aromatic, industrial, poisonous. It's always good to know. And then they have like this is a perennial, and these are the zones: spring, fall, and a moderate. Okay. So these are really good. This is like the best information in these catalogs if you want to be successful. So, okay. And you can start plants from seed. And if you look at I have a blog on planting Tulsi, because I love Tulsi. Tulsi does really well around here, but one specific species. And then, I wish I had okay. So then I don't know if this won't be up. Will my face be in this thing? Because I'll have to move this turtle seed. There's a biodynamic seed catalog called Turtle Seed in cold. I can't remember exactly, but it's on the New York, Massachusetts line, and it is an amazing. And if you really want to know about an incredible world, look up biodynamic. But anyway, they have wonderful seeds.
Just to interrupt you for a second, Lise. Your face will not cover up the recording, so this is
good. Okay, so I have to
and
move it.
We'll be able to access it on our YouTube channel. But also, for future reference, anybody watching can click on the little thumbnail of Lise's face and drag it anywhere on your screen if you want.
Okay, good, great. Because I want them to get this information, because that's an amazing, and you can tour that group, I can't remember. Yes, you can tour their garden, and it's just an amazing place. But you can look up, they have phenomenal seeds. This is actually my Tulsi tray. I wasn't sure about Tulsi, which is called holy basil, whether it would grow around here. And one year I bought all these seeds. Now you can buy the seeds, but this was a long time ago. And I grew, there's Vata, Rama, Krishna, and Kapoor. And I tried all of these seeds, and we had a very warm spring. And so I started everything from seed, and then I grew everything. And the thing that did really well was this plant here, this species. So, but now I noticed that you can get seeds, and they just call them Tulsi, and you can get the seeds that do well around here because this plant is from India. And so it's one of their sacred plants, and they use it all the time, and it's absolutely delicious. And people do really well by this, and it grows beautifully around here. And you know, of course, you harvest it, but it's probably my group. It's probably of all the herbs that I've ever grown and people like to drink, it'd be this plant. This plant is an amazing plant, so it's totally worth. And you can grow it in pots too. So this is worth finding the seeds and growing them. Also, on my blog is how you save the seeds, and you can save the seeds for next year. So this is you can grow it. Let's see if I'm going to go into here. Okay, I'm going to go back because I want to talk about it. Okay, one of the hardest things to do right now, because of the big box stores, is that so many of the nurseries, the mom and pop nurseries, have folded up. And I don't know if it's a question of people just retire and they can't compete with all these other nurseries, and you never know what you're going to get with them. And so getting herbal plants is an issue. Used to be that you can, like we had like meads in up here, but they've gone out of business, they're done. And so I don't know. The one thing I don't know what to say is where you can get herbal plants. And if anybody who's listening to this knows places where they can buy herbal plants, or nurseries, or maybe in Vermont, please let me know, because I get this information all the time, because sometimes it's just easier to just buy the plant. And it's kind of hard when you do mail order too. So if anybody knows, that'd be great. I know that there's a big one down in, it's way down, like a couple of hours away south. So I know that there are some down there. I just don't know. So I would be really interested in that information if anybody has that to share, because I'll just put it on my website. Okay, so harvesting. So you've grown everything and you want to harvest. So you harvest plants at different times. For instance, chamomile, you basically harvest the mature part of the flower. Elderberries, they ripen in late summer, and that's when you pick them and you dry them and you use them. Lemon balm, for instance, anytime. Most of the plants, anytime. They do tell you just before they flower, and that is kind of a just before they flower. Or for the mint family, it is when they're in flowering, because that's when they have the most potent. That's when they're the most potent. So there are, but you know what? Anytime, except for roots. You harvest roots in the fall. And so I harvest a lot of roots. Roots are good. Okay, so this is people think that all you ever use in herbal medicine is the leaves, but you don't. You use all different things. Like, for instance, you use calendula flowers. Lavender buds. You want to pick a lavender. You want to pick the buds, not when they're full flower, but just before, or the buds. And it's very easy to see that. Chamomile, that would be the mature tops of that. Roses would be the petals, not when they're completely ripened, but just before they really bloom. You have seeds. You have barks, root barks, all different resins. This is ginger. That's a rootstock, a bulb, the gel from the aloe vera, maple syrup, pine pitch. We have all these pines around here. So people just forget. They also think it's just about leaves, but it's not. It's way more than that. And we can't forget our fungi. So let's go here. Harvest time.
And Lise, you drew those.
Yes.
You drew those yourself.
Yes, I do.
Nice job.
Yeah, that's good. That's my second book when I get it done. So, okay, so this is harvesting, and actually, this is actually like one of my days where I had so much stuff, I couldn't believe it, and I have to all deal with it. But anyway, I put it on my kitchen counter, took a picture. But okay. So how do you, what do? How do you use this stuff? Well, you dry it. You dry it, use it fresh, or you dry it for use later, or you make tinctures out of it, or you make oils out of it. There's just so many different things, and there is so much information on the web now, and there's a lot of people who just do this. So I'm always amazed. I'm in it 40 years, so I'm always amazed. When I started doing it, there's very little information, but now there is. So if you look down here, I have a whole blog on drying herbal plants. And then I have a whole thing on harvesting lemon balm and then making tea with it. So I think that would help you if you just want to, check that out. And it's always good to see the pictures. Okay, so harvesting leaves. You pick the top third of the plant. You don't pull the plant up by the root and say, hey, can you use this? Because that's what they used to do to me in the garden, and it would be all dirty. And no, you don't have to kill the plant in order to use it. Usually a kind of a good time is a sunny mid-morning after the dew is dried. And a lot of times you'll be competing with the bees, which is that then you're really doing you're really picking it at the right time, because you're all in it together. And then of course you can pick anytime you need to use the herbs, you can pick them. And I always say it's like you're giving the plant a haircut, and they really like that. So you're pruning them. And so you harvest continuously through the season. So you harvest, you put it in a paper bag. Well, we'll talk about that, and you dry it. And so let me see, I'm going to go down here. I think I have stuff here. Okay. So I have harvesting flowers just before they bloom. And these are some of the common flowers. This is one of the flowers. We're making a tincture out of this. When my students were making a tincture out of all these different flowers in the garden. We pick, this is probably mid summer, and we pick all the flowers and we make a tincture out of it, which is putting it in alcohol and steeping it. And I can't remember what we used to call it. I think we used to call it shift. Yeah. So every year it's different. So it's fun. Let me go into it. Okay. So this is harvesting roots. I'm doing good. I have a lot of pictures of harvesting roots because I love to harvest roots. And this is a burdock root that some of my students are harvesting, and they did an incredible job. And burdock is a great herb, a great root to use. This is valerian root, and they're harvesting valerian roots in the garden. I have a ton of this. Valerian root is used, it's kind of a muscle relaxer, but it's also on the scale of herbs, nervine herbs, it probably is one of the stronger ones. It calms people down. It helps anxiety, and it is prolific in my garden. So I'm always thinking, yeah, people really need to use this, especially at this time. So I have lots of it. We're washing the herbs. We're washing it and drying them. Okay, so here's what you do with them. They're dehydration methods. So I actually use a lot of baskets. So, whoops, where's my little thing? Okay, so baskets are great. And these are the old-timey baskets that you would put paper plates in, and they're fantastic for drying herbs. You just put them in there, you put another basket on top, and you stack them up, and they dry really well. We're in the Northeast, so we are there's a lot of humidity here, so you really can't you can't put the stuff on a clothesline and dry it out there like you could in like sunny California. No way. But there's tons of ways of drying. And I actually, even though I have a big fancy electric dehydrator and I've been drying forever, I probably use my car. If I put the herbs in the paper bag and I use my car as a dehydrator, it's perfect. It's like 100 degrees. You don't want to go over more than 100 degrees. And it works so well, especially because you're usually drying little bits and pieces. I'll have sometimes I'll look at my car and I'll have like too many little bags of herbs. But they dry really well, except for you have to remember sometimes it's very hot. So you just have to be really, the mint plant family will dry too fast. Like lemon balm will actually get black if it gets too much heat. So, but the car is a great dehydrator. And of course I have trays and I use trays, but this is a new thing right here, these net dehydrators. And I didn't even know what to call them. They call them solar dehydrators, but I just stick this in my house. And I have a lot of people who actually have these, like I go into some of my friends' houses and everybody's got one of these in the corner and they're great. They work great. Trick is though, make sure you label your plants because everything looks the same once it's dried. That is a really important thing to do. And here we are, we're stripping all the plants and then we're going to, and basically you put everything in glass jars and it can keep for like years. And as I said, these are my little culinary herbs. So let me see. Also, I have all of this information again in a blog. Just have to, okay, so let me do this. So storage. So how do you store this stuff? Well, you want to avoid heat, moisture, air, and light. And if you put stuff in a jar like this, and I've done it, I've actually left stuff. Like I actually put all my jars, because I didn't have any room. I used to have no room. I put all my jars in a Tupperware container, put the top on it, and I left it in my garage. And 1 year, I forgot that I had done that. And I think it was 2 years later, I opened up this, I thought, oh my God, I left all of this stuff for 2 years. And I opened up these containers and the plants were just as fresh as they were because they were filled to the top and they were sealed and they were in the cold and dark. And it's amazing how well that'll keep them. So that's something to, think about if you don't have the space. That worked really well for me. This is a really important thing is to label. I'm going to just do my little, there's one mantra I always say to my students is label. I make a lot of stuff. And if you don't label it, you will not remember what it is. You label your paper bags. I can smell a lot of this stuff and I know my plants and I can taste, but you really need to, label your creations. Otherwise you won't know what you had. You certainly don't ever give them out without labeling it. Nothing should ever leave your house without you labeling, put your name on it and what it is. This is actually from my book. So I have a whole rant on labeling in my book. Okay, so there's a shelf life to all these herbal products. And this is your dried leaves, 1 to 2 years. Dried roots, 2 to 4. This is basically the powders. I've used more than just 1 year. It's all a question of keeping them. Some people put their herbal powders in their freezer. I don't. I use them up. The capsules are that would be powder. So that's kind of the same thing. If you make an herbal infusion or a tea, you can, strain it out and you can put it in your refrigerator and it can stay, depending on the herb, 1 to 4 days. It depends on the herb. You can see if it goes funky. You can actually see it. You can actually taste it. So, and then of course your tinctures, they last a really long time because they're alcohol based. Syrups, I make a lot of syrups. All this information is in my book and it's all illustrated how to make every single thing here. Yes, from years and years and years of teaching. Okay, so this is kind of important. I'm trying to do my timing. Oh, okay. So whoops, okay. So this is a couple of things I really want to do. This is plant identification because there are so many plants in the Northeast that grow wild. And this is one of the plants that people always ask me, what is this plant? They bloom almost at the same time. This is yarrow and this is Queen Anne's lace. They look to an untrained eye, not to mine, but to an untrained eye, it's like a white flower and it's got green leaves. So you have to know what you have. You have to know your plant identification. So people do go into the people are getting really into this wild crafting and you have to know what you're doing. And the slide from this is talking about, actually, I'm going to go into that slide better. Okay. This is what you need to know. You need to get some plant identification books for wild crafting because, and you need to get some good ones. And there's a bunch of them out there, but I suggest getting ones that are written that have not so much the photographs because they're not, it's hard to identify with them, but with the ones that are drawn with pictures, and get a series of them, because I have found people to think they know everything and they don't, and you have to have a trained eye, and you don't want to pick stuff that you shouldn't be picking. So that's all I'm going to go on that one. Okay, know what you're picking. Number one, get permission to pick it if it's not on your land, and don't pick the only plant if it's the excuse me, if it's the only plant that's growing. Don't pick endangered plants. Don't pull the plant up by its roots. Leave the dirt in the fields and pick what you'll actually use. This is a biggie. People get really excited about identifying plants, but that doesn't mean you should pick them. If you're going to use them, pick them. And I get really worried about some of the endangered plants. Know where you're picking it, and I'm not on the side of the roads. Excuse me. And a lot of times you can transplant a lot of these plants into your garden. So let me go back here. This is kind of a cool chart. It just shows you the mint plants.
Would now be a good time for me to talk about my book so you can clear your throat?
Yeah, do it. Because I just want to get to the I think I'm almost there. Oh, here. Yeah, just that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can you stop sharing your screen?
Yep. I'm not sure how.
At the top.
At the top. Is it stop video?
No.
No.
I guess where you shared your screen before, on the bottom.
Is that
there
it?
You go.
Okay.
Okay, so that did it. So I am going to put us on gallery view for a moment.
Okay.
I'm going to pull up my slides here and put them in show mode. So just trying to give Lise a chance to clear her throat. And I'm going to exit out of that and change the view. Sorry about this, everybody. There are some settings that, if you're not careful to turn them off, they're like a default, and I don't want to show the notes. So now I should be able to do this. And of course, now your throat is fine. All right, let's try.
That's all right. Those books are important.
Okay.
The only thing I need is I just want to make sure I talk about the Lyme stuff at the very end.
Sure.
That's it. Because I know we're running out of time.
Okay, well, hopefully people can see this and experiencing technical difficulties, but that's okay. So again, this is the Saratoga Springs Public Library presenting Lise Fuller, Planting and Planning a Medicinal Garden. And some books we have in the library are Lisa's book, which we have in the nonfiction section on the second floor. Here's the book. You're welcome to check out. And we also have a book called The Gift of Healing Herbs, which was published in 2012. And Lise was telling me that usually we discard books that are from the science area, 3 years or more. But these books, the information in them is still valid. So we still have some older books on the shelf. This is a little bit newer. It's on order. And this is what Lise was talking about earlier about instead of using a rototiller for your garden, just using that fork and putting your soil on top of the cardboard. And so this is another book about that. This was published at the beginning of last year. And this is also on order. and another no-till book also on order. It'll be in the new and popular section when we get it in. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Uh-oh.
We'll go back to the gallery view for the panelists. And now you're going to share your screen again.
Okay. Ta-da. So do I go right into my, I'll have to go right into my, okay.
It should be open on your desktop still. And when you
yes, it
share
is.
screen, you'll click on your PowerPoint.
Okay, so it's here. Oh, hey, there it is. Yay. Okay, that was easy. Wow, I'm impressed. Okay, so I'm just going to go. Okay, so we were there. I just put this in there because one of the interesting things is one of the ways you identify is through the actual flower. And believe it or not, all these plants have that little tiny flower. And it's really interesting how many popular herb plants are from the mint family. This would be considered the mint family. But I'm going to go into, these are the plants, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but these are the plants that you can wildcraft. They grow everywhere. We have an amazing amount of plants that grow around us. Wild.
Oh, we have a question from a viewer.
Yes.
Does ginger freeze well?
Yes, it freezes fine. I do it all the time. Yeah. Yeah. You can just freeze it right in your freezer. You know, yeah, it works good. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the tools so much, except for this one, two tools. If you have sand, this is the greatest tool imaginable. And then if you would dig roots, you need a transplant shovel, a long, skinny shovel. And if you're going to start really, if you seriously get into this and you're going to dig a root, this is the shovel you need. You can't use the other shovels. And I was in Lowe's and they don't even have these shovels. They used to be called, I can't remember. They used to be called different things, but I think now they're called transplant shovels. Just to make your life easier. Okay, what I want to talk about. Okay, I'm just going to talk about two things here. These are my friends who live out in the southern tier, and they have the most amazing herbal farm, and they sell amazing herbs, and they're just wonderful. And I actually stuck one of. They're actually going to have a seminar, and it was supposed to go last year, but they're just going to do it this year. And if you are interested in growing plants, this is invaluable. They don't usually do this, so this would be quite the. If I know a lot of young farmers, and I can't tell you how many people I tried to convince to do this. But anyway, onward we go, because this is what I want to know. Okay, this is ticks. Okay, so this is a tick. Like this, these things work really well to get ticks out. It's really people. There's ticks. There never used to be ticks, but there's ticks now, and people are afraid to go in their gardens. And so I have actually this thing called the tick kit. And so, but basically, it is an oil that I make with those the plants from the garden, and so you want to wear the proper clothing, tights, pants, long sleeve shirts. I don't care. You just got to do it, and I don't care how hot it is, and then you want to put the herbal oil on your legs, especially. And so that would be a preventative. And then if you get bit, you need to use a tool. I carry one of these around in my first aid kit that I have. And also, you just have to have one of these. They should give these things away for free. Actually, Warren County said they would, but you can't go there anymore anyway. So anyway, you need to have one of these, and you need to take the tick out, because I have known people who don't take the tick out. You take the tick out, and then you want to treat your bite. And so I have this bug bite be gone liniment, which is with witch hazel and different herbs, and I combine it with French green clay, and you put it on your and your tick bite, and then you put a Band-Aid over it, and you let it sit there for 48 hours. You just keep on adding that because ticks will leave stuff in your skin. And then internally treat yourself. These are the two herbs, and I use tinctures because it's easier. Cat's claw and sweet Annie. Now you can finally buy this Artemisium annua. And you can buy these, and I would take like a small dosage of this for 10 days just to as a preventative. So I leave this in there. I think that it's really important. Okay, so I am done. There we go. So is there anything else that I need to talk about? Any questions?
I think you covered it all. If anybody
Good.
has any other questions that they'd like to type in the Q&A, this is a good time to do that, and I can read them and Lise can answer.
That'd be good.
So maybe just give it like 30 seconds, but I do want to say that your illustrations are fantastic. All this information has been great, and this recording will be placed on the library YouTube channel, which you can find a link to it from the library homepage.
Great.
At the top of the page on the right-hand side. So
great.
I think if you want to stop sharing your screen.
I do.
Okay.
I just want to say that my book has a ton of recipes in it. This is a picture of my book.
Where can you buy your book?
Okay, you can buy it in two places. You can buy it through my website. You can buy it like in Glens Falls. You can buy it at two places. One is Ace Hardware. Everybody knows Ace Hardware. Noble, it used to be Noble, but it's Ace Hardware on Glen Street, and you can buy it there. The information, if you just click on book and herbs, there, it's where you can buy it at two places. I try to get it to the herbs stores, but what happens is I can't keep on. It's actually growing. It's actually goes fast, so I can't. It's hard for me to keep up with this thing. So yeah, so yes, you can get it there, or you can call me and you can pick it up at my house, which is what people are doing. So
all right, and we have a comment also that thanks again, and they're looking forward to rewatching it so they can take notes.
Oh, good.
Someone else is saying if you're looking for volunteers, you might want to give a plug on how people can contact you for volunteering at that garden.
Okay, so they can go on my website. They can go into contact, and there's an email address in there, and I promise I will monitor it. It's a Gmail.
Also, somebody planted elderberry in a happy place where she did not expect it to grow that big so quickly. And thanks for the great talk.
Oh, great.
All right. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and thank you, Lise, for all your wealth of information.
Well, thank you. And I also thank you so much for Saratoga Library. This is great. I'm getting used to this new world, but I think I can reach a lot of people this way, especially because they can get in, they can, get it later, which is great. And that's why I put a lot of the information on the slide so that you can use it.